stuff. All right, so welcome to another special episode of the GDL cast, and it's an extended special player spotlight. But first, of course, I am joined by the man, the technical wizard who makes everything possible. It's Mr. Butters, Dwayne. It's you, mate. How are you?
I'm good, mate. Yourself?
Doing all right, buddy. Who do we have today?
We have a very special guest. He's won countless titles across Australia. He's played on the famous Ali Pali stage with his son. He's a recent winner of the Modus Super Series. It's the guru, Raymond Smith.
Hey guys, how we doing?
I'm good, mate. Yourself?
Yeah.
Thank you very much for joining us.
Oh, pleasure. Thanks for the invite.
Not a problem.
Fantastic stuff. So, Raymond, let's go back right to the early days. Who were your early darting influences? What got you into the sport?
Probably my dad and one of the ladies named Barbara Marchant used to live close by to us. So we lived in a caravan park, and they built a shack in the group of friends, just a little vacant lot there. And one of the things they chucked in there was a dartboard. So we were down there after work every day having a yarn, and one of the ladies up the road, Barbara, come down to get a lift with Dad to darts and saw me playing. She says, "Oh, do you want to play?" No, I'm not interested, thanks. But and then a week later, Dad says, "Come on, you're playing. We're short." So I got a free meal out of it, so I wasn't complaining. I got down there, and I think threw my first 3 darts, and I was hooked.
At what point did you realise you were half decent?
Probably 2015. So
yeah.
I've never really seen myself as much more than a social player. Like people will ring you up and say, "Oh, there's a game down the road this weekend. Do you want to come?" It's like, yeah, I don't mind. We'll go down. We'll throw some darts, have a few drinks with mates and a yarn, and I'd already played for Queensland at that time, which is about the equivalent of the county leagues that you've got there. And I didn't do too bad. It wasn't something that I was overly interested in as such, like doing all the overseas travel and all that sort of stuff. But in 2015, I don't know what it was, but I just decided that I wanted to play a bit more. So started traveling around Australia and I started picking up tournaments and beating players that had done some pretty good things in the world. So.
And so you mentioned like the playing for Queensland's like the county over here. Forgive me for being ignorant to how it works in Australia. What is the setup like? What is it like over there for that kind of playing? What's the format like over there?
Yeah, it's kind of an odd one. We play. You play off for your club or your home association. So I play at Pine Rivers Darts Club, not far from where I am now. So we'll play, a round robin against anyone that wants to play off for the Queensland side. If you make your top 6 in your club, then you go to the zone or your regional. So you'll play off there. You probably have up to 5 associations, so 30 players that'll play off, and you'll play off for your top 6 positions. And if you make that side, then you go to the Queensland Championships. Then you'll play teams games against 9 other zones, so 10 zones total. And then they'll pick the top 12 on averages over the Saturday, Sunday for the teams events. And then you play a top 12 shootout to make the 8 on a Monday. So it's quite brutal. But
there's a lot involved in that then.
Yeah, it's a lot of travel. So I mean, for argument's sake, someone in Townsville could or Charters Towers even. They're going to have a 4-hour drive ahead of them just to play off for their zone. Some of those guys probably a 3 and a bit hour drive to play off for their club. So,
mad.
And then from Townsville to Maryborough is a 14-hour drive, I think it is. So
yeah, that's some level of commitment that is not seen like this side of the world. That's incredible.
Yeah, it's fairly brutal how far we're spread. So, but
do you think it could be narrowed down and concentrated a little bit more to stop the spread of 14-hour drives and stuff.
Yeah, look, I think it should. I've always said that due to the vastness of Queensland, that we should be separated into three regions, that being southern, middle, and northern. Just because we have so much catchment area, and look, we do lose a lot of zones or associations within zones that just pull out because the sheer cost involved with sending teams away or keeping up affiliate fees. And yeah, it's we should be trying to find a way to make it a little bit more streamlined.
So is there a lot of sponsors? Sorry, Wayne. Is there a lot of backing in the darts community, or is it a case of a lot of people have to work 4 or 5 days a week to fund just to play?
Oh, even if you're sponsored, you're working 4 or 5 days a week to play.
Yeah.
It's so if you're looking at the total cost, if you want to play either the DA side here, you're looking at about 15 grand a year to play a majority of the tournaments, not all of them. So I don't know what the minimum wages are over there, but I think ours at the moment's about 29,000. So half of your wage is going to that travel. So if you're playing on the DPA side, they've based everything out of Sydney now. So for myself, it's around about $1,400 an event to play, and 2 days off work on top of that.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's not just $1,400. It's your 2 days loss of work as well. It's a substantial amount.
Yeah, so you're looking at 5 or 6 events. So there's 10 days of my annual leave down already. And if I go to the UK, I've only got two weeks of paid leave up my sleeve if I do that sort of nonsense. As ridiculous as it sounds, it's for me, it's more beneficial if I go to New Zealand to play off for the Alexandra Palace option, because I can fly out Friday night and then fly home Monday morning. And because of the time difference, I don't have any days off work, and it costs about the same. Yeah.
So have you ever looked into? So I don't know if you've come across Damon Hatter much at all, but seeing what Damon's done in the last 4 years, coming over to the UK, taking that gamble, has anything like that ever crossed your mind?
Yeah. Look, and Damon and I, same stable, Team Misfits. So he was part of our team before he went over. It definitely had, but Damon was in a far different position. So he did everything properly. Like he thought it out in a long way in advance. As for myself, it has crossed my mind, but financially, it just doesn't stack up. So I've got a family to support, and I make more than enough money in my job to rival a lot of the potential winnings. Statistically, I'd have to be in the top 5 for the rest of up until 60 to make the same money. And,
it's a no-brainer at that point, then, isn't it?
Yeah. But don't get me wrong. I'd love to do it. I'd love to have a crack. And there was a period there where I was going to look at going to Q school this year. This coming year, because I can take 2 years leave without pay in my current award, and then go give 2 years a crack and see what could happen.
And
Fair enough.
It's the playing on the just playing on the Modus Super Series, has that had a effect on your thought process?
Yeah, absolutely. It's another opportunity. It's another. So I mean, if you go over there and you don't get a tour card, challenge tours are going to be quite difficult to sustain yourself. Where Modus gives you another option. It gives you another week, and plus you're playing some really, really good players.
Yeah.
And something about Modus. It's just really it's set up right. It's all about the players. The players. I mean, don't get me wrong. I know that there's gambling on it, and there's a lot of money from that side of things. But from a player's perspective, it's perfect.
Yeah.
So, and it gives you another opportunity. So you can go there, you can play for some decent coin, and get your confidence up, because you're playing in the ideal conditions. So you're playing good players day in, day out. So all the recipe for everything you need as an international player to set yourself up.
Yeah, it does come across as a breeding ground for potential tour card holders in the future. Like, just look at last year, the amount of players that have come from playing the Modus Super Series who've gone on to gain a tour card. You say you're getting that experience and that competitive games in all the time. It's, yeah, I love the Super Series. I think it's fantastic for darts.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, going up there and getting here in Australia, when I play most of my games, I could probably make one or two mistakes a leg. There, I make one mistake, I'm getting pumped.
Yeah.
And that's it's not something that we get here very often. We've got to wait for that one game and that one person, and you got to hope that they're playing well as well. But yeah, at the Modus, everybody's giving it to you.
So going from playing in Australia to going into playing, we'll just go for the Modus since we're talking about it. Do you go in with a different mentality, thinking, no, I can't make one mistake here? Is it a different mentality altogether?
Yeah, because the conditions are right, I can just get into my groove and do my thing. I don't have to worry about air conditioners blowing darts around. I don't have to worry about people walking between tables and all that sort of stuff, or between your game. It's not people slagging you off, because you're playing someone's mate. It's just the conditions are perfect, so I can just slip into my groove and go.
What is your pre-match setup then? You've got an ideal professional setup, like say for Modus or going into as far as Ali Pali. You know you're not getting interfered. What's an ideal setup for Ray Smith? Pre-match and
Modus.
during.
Yeah, no, I can't sing Modus's praises enough. I mean, if anything, I'd like another meter in in the practice room, but that's it. There's nothing. There's nothing else that you can. Yeah, it's perfect. It's ideal. Right
So,
temperatures, right conditions, right everything.
so one question I also like to ask players is golf, tennis, a lot of individual sports have this big prestige, and darts has got a lot to catch up with. Can darts reach the level that the PGA is or the LTA is around the world in terms of like reach for players and offer that amount of money as well?
Um, no, not with the
So,
current system.
what does darts
So
need to do then as a sport?
there's a lot of things. Look, darts is moving in the right direction in a lot of categories, but the players are going to be limited by environment, and this is the thing I'm trying to explain here in Australia. I'll go and play tournaments. I'll average low 90s, so anywhere between low 80s to low 90s. I go on Modus, and I think my bad game is in the high 80s, and I'm throwing a lot of 109 averages because the environment says that I can take on that next level. So when you go to all of these events, like I saw Vincent Vandervoort's post the other day about, I looked at some of the stats from I can't remember which Open it was, but it was only a recent one. But he was saying that the conditions weren't great, and if you have a look at the averages support his statement about the conditions. So we need to get administrators more serious about the conditions, about the opportunities that they're trying to create. Fantastic, but put players in the conditions to support that. If you got players turning up, so use one example. The playoffs to get to the Ali Pali last year, it was 7 degrees in the hall, and I put a jumper on, and I was told to take the jumper off because it looked unprofessional. I said I think it's more unprofessional that we're playing in 7 degrees and averaging like very very low 70s.
Yeah.
Because I think that's unprofessional. So look at things for what they really are.
Yeah, you want to give
If
your
we
players
can
a chance to perform, really, don't you?
exactly, so to give the players the opportunity to perform, um, and give them the right conditions and all that sort of stuff, that level will start to go up that little bit higher. I mean, everybody looks at the MVGs and the Michael Smiths and all that and wondering how they do it. Imagine you got 30 or 40 of those guys. So I think it was about 5 odd years ago, before Ray Van Barneveld retire, um, a mutual friend of mine and the New Zealand All Blacks were sports psychologists were looking at darts and how dart players stay cool under pressure and stay so focused and so precise. So we're going to try and tee up a tap between RBB and the All Blacks. I'm not sure if it went ahead or not, but those are big segues into those events. But the last thing you want to do is have, let's say, a Ray Van Barneveld on TV with the All Blacks, and then he goes and knocks out a 77 average because the conditions are rubbish in the next game. People are going to look at it. Not to saying that RVB ever would, but yeah, it's. But once you start getting into those niche markets or all those conversations and start talking to sports scientists with the greatest rugby team of all time and has a history of winning and all that sort of stuff, you start to get the conversations coming back the other way. So dart players start to work with sports scientists. We start getting into biomechanical studies and all that sort of stuff. So one of my luckiest moments, I suppose, is when I got to work with someone from the University of Queensland on biomechanics, because somebody wrote a paper in the US about how a dart throw was exactly the same as a free throw in basketball from a biomechanical perspective. So when we start having those conversations, and next minute I'm working with the Brisbane Bullets or a couple of guys from the Brisbane Bullets about darts technique and how it can translate to a free throw, this is getting us into mainstream conversations. So we start coming into, all of a sudden, basketball players are talking about dart players from a technical perspective. All Blacks are talking about dart players from a mental perspective. We start opening up those doors, but yeah, at the same time, yeah, you go into tournaments. The one thing that I've got a massive bugbear about: you go to tournaments and people are wearing hats and all that sort of stuff. That's unprofessional. That's not selling the game. But you're turning up to tournaments. You're playing for 3 parts of stuff all, and the people that are running the event just put everything up on sheets and all that, and you don't see them for days on end. Yeah, it's kind of sort of, we've got to get away um, from poor management. We've got to start getting systems and processes and events that'll support the improved performance. And once we get the improved performance, we start getting into different discussions and conversations with better sports. But I just don't see the investment from any entity that's going to facilitate that. So
So we're not seeing
long-winded
Richard
answer.
versus
Sorry.
LeBron James anytime soon on the dartboard.
Yeah, but yeah, look, it's it'll be one of those things that I wouldn't mind at least having his people having a conversation about darts or seeing how dart players do it, because it is a highly technical game. It's ridiculous. I mean, golf is probably the only game that comes close, from a game that I've played anyway, that has so many technical requirements.
Yeah,
The
it's
best part
it's
about darts as well is it's non-discriminate. It doesn't matter if you're male, female, if you have a minor disability, or um, you can compete at that world level.
How would you get the future involved then? How would you make it more accessible to kids? Because a lot of sports rely on things like small-sided games. If you're rugby, football, or cricket, team sports are easier to adapt, whereas something like darts, at the minute, it's not that adjustable. But what if you've got a blank bit of paper and you've got to design something for 5 to 10-year-olds? What would you do?
So you're looking at from a development perspective, or
Yeah. Getting kids interested, getting them involved, because a lot of players
yeah,
don't pick up a board or a dart until they're 14, 15, and you can play it
yeah,
regulation.
it's quite a difficult one, because at the end of the day, you've got to get the parents' investment first. So you can't get the parents' investment when they turn up to a local league and you got people yelling, shouting, drinking, carrying on, and tournaments running 12 hours, and so we've got to have a system or something designed to keep, because I mean, kids don't have a 12-hour attention span, so we've got to find a system that's going to match their attention span. Um, And then you've got to probably look at games or different routines to keep it fun, because most of the time people just turn up there, they'll play Bob's 27 or they'll throw at targets and all that sort of stuff, and there's an hour and a half of people just ignoring kids and saying just do what's on the board, and have something more focused. I like what the JDC's got in order of some of the stuff that they're doing. I don't necessarily agree with the structures, but or the games that they've implemented, but the system that they've got is good. So, and then have a development system where you've got adjustable boards and all that sort of stuff, so you can allow kids to build up that strength and get that muscle memory going from a very early age. Appreciating you're not going to be able to gauge someone's height from, or full grown height from 8, 9, 10, or 11 years old, but it's one thing that I used to do for Kai. I'd have a board that was measured to his eye line. So because I thought that I'm 180 odd centimeters, my dad was 180 odd centimeters, stands to reason Kai would be about the same, and then he grew to 6'3". And then, but yeah, look, but he got to grow into the board until I didn't have to get him his technique to overwork, or I didn't have to wait for his muscle groups to get strong enough to throw at a full size board. I just made the board aligned to him, so that way he stayed confident, he stayed focused, he was hitting targets and all that sort of stuff a lot easier, so it's easier to keep him motivated. So
if you're keeping everything in your eye line, even at a young age, it stands you in good stead for growing, and the board's moving with you.
Yeah, but I mean, how many times you see videos with kids that are throwing a full-size dartboard, and they've let the dart go, and their shoulders in front of their eyes, and their arms all the way out
because they're having to force it to get the dart to the board.
Yeah. So instead of teaching kids the not the basics, but teaching them about kinetic energy and how you draw energy through your back foot, and then you drive it forward from through arm speed and your wrist and fingers. They're trying to throw from their shoulder, which you're just giving them bad technique or bad habits from a very early age.
So the sports science thing there, you mentioned projecting the energy from your back foot. Was this something that you'd always looked into, or was it opened up to you when you were talking to the sports scientists about it?
No, that's how I got the nickname the Guru. From a guy named Jimmy Shannon gave me the nickname because every time we'd talk about something and they'd say, I wonder how that works, just a throwaway line. I'd go away 2 weeks later and I'd come back and tell them how it works. And it's just like, no one cares about that anymore. Well, I care. So, no, it's always been something that I've been fascinated about. So sports science, biomechanics, the mental game, the whole lot.
I think personally, it's a very underused thing in darts. You see it a lot in snooker now, that a lot of players have got a sports psychologist working with them. I think it could be, it's a very underutilized thing in darts, because it is, you're up there on your own. You're just up there with your brain. So if you've got someone that can get you in that right frame of mind.
Yeah, 100%. But going back to the previous discussion, the issue that we have is that sports science isn't dart centric. It's not focused on darts. So not a lot of players or not a lot of people that I've met from the sports science perspective or fields understand the iterations of darts, because there's so much going on. Like I'm having quite a few conversations with people with dartitis at the moment, and trying to get them to understand the whole biomechanical and mental systems associated with it. And you're coming up and trying to talk to people about their internal body calculation, how it all works. How many muscles do you move to take a step, and how often do you consciously think about taking a step? But
it's about how simple you can make it as well. When, like I said, there's not much of a basketball following in the UK, but when you compare throwing a dart to a free throw, and you point out something as simple, to make that comparison as well, you can bring in other sports and the mechanics into it. It brings the whole game up to another level. You simplify things like that way. way, don't you?
Yeah, absolutely. So you're looking at things from like darts. You can attribute a lot of darts to lawn bowls, to golf, basketball, cricket. I mean, there's a lot of sports that I use as analogies when I'm coaching, just because there are like with with darts, it doesn't look like much is moving, but so many things are engaged, and it's how do you from a standing position, how do you keep your waist lock in a line and keep your feet straight and your shoulders straight and only move from your elbow, and um, yeah, how do you work towards the ultimate of efficiency of motion? It's yeah, it's a lot of it's a lot of fun.
Sounds it.
But
And would you say the mechanics of the game now is probably more important than practice routines?
um, no,
Or have you got to work the two
at
together?
the end, it's kind of an odd one. So a lot of the high end dart players that I've spoken with about darts, it's all practice for them. It's all about efficiency of motion. That's all they've got. If you ask them about the psychology and the biomechanical atmosphere, or how it all works, and when you put it all together up on stage, no idea. So yeah, it's an odd one. So practice is definitely required, and it works, but I'm still competitive, and I probably pick up my darts once a week.
That's very interesting. That it's it's.
Yeah.
I think I
Because
could
if
go
you,
on and talk about that for hours, but we haven't got hours.
no, it's like, but it's almost like if you're practicing with a poor technique, your game's never going to be there. But if you focus on the technique and then bring it into your practice, enforce those good habits, that's how players can progress.
Yeah, yeah, but at some point, your body's internal calculator will work towards efficiency of motion, which is a very important thing when we look at it. If you work on your technique, and your technique has to be a standard technique as such, you wouldn't have a throw like Dennis Priestley, you wouldn't have a throw like Jockey Wilson, Eric Bristow. Um, everyone's got their own nuances. I mean, how do you get ideal technique out of Richie Burnett? You know,
Yeah,
that's,
you, do- you
or
can't.
Alan Tappan for that example. Like it's through weight of practice, these guys will find their body will automatically adjust to give them efficiency of movement. So
So
practice is essential.
you've got a young lad or lass coming up to you wanting to play darts, and you want to show them a professional with a throw that if they replicate, they'll be standing in good stead. What professional would you say has got
Gary Anderson,
an ideal throw as a starting point for someone starting out playing darts?
Gary Anderson,
Yeah, it's-
technically spot on,
yeah.
everything about it.
Do you believe the story about Gary Anderson when he first picked up a
Yes,
dart? Yeah.
yeah. And I believe him when he says that he doesn't practice either, because his technique just
Yeah,
it suggests that he doesn't need to.
yeah. There's not a lot that can go wrong in Gary Anderson's throw.
No, no. So, but I mean, you still need to make those micro adjustments and all that sort of stuff. You need to know how to make those adjustments. So, um, and then there's the variables. You got to be able to figure out the variables, um, which is what practice does for you.
So talking about Gary Anderson, we've seen it, he made a run to the Players' Championship final yesterday. So if he's not needing to practice as he says, and I believe that as well. I've always believed that what he says is true. If he's not needing to practice, it's going back onto the psychological thing. It's all got to be in his mind whether he's up for playing or not. Because if he's up for playing and he's got that smooth action and can throw at any given day, surely if he's on it on that day in his mind, he can have a run in any tournament.
Yeah, absolutely,
Yeah,
and that's what it comes down to is, and why I say the difference between a lot of other players, the way they think and the way I think, is that I'm very, very aware of the chronological order in which things have to happen. So it's not that I don't practice per se. I don't do the physical aspect, but mentally, I'm 100% on it
yeah.
all the time. Between visualization, like I don't stand at the board and throw, but I'll sit there and I'll visualize a throw from the technical aspect, and yeah, and take measurements of the body movement, the muscle movements, how I'm feeling. tournaments for me start 2 weeks beforehand. 2 liters of water every day to try and make sure that I'm mentally clear. Diets change. Everything is in there to make sure that I'm mentally clear. I'm focused. I have all the energy I need for however long I anticipate to play on the day. All these little things that you can kind of get away with.
Does who
It's
you're playing ever affect your preparation at all? Because with things like the Brisbane Masters coming up back in 2018, I think it was, you picked up a big victory against Michael Smith,
Mm-hmm.
but you've also come up against prime Michael Van Gerwen in the first round of the tournament. Does that ever
Yeah,
come
yeah.
into your thinking at all before you get on stage?
No, not really. I think the only time who I played kind of got me was Phil Taylor when I played him in Brisbane as part of his Pro Tour exhibition series because I was playing him in my backyard, and my backyard was singing "There's only one Phil Taylor," and it's just like, but that's the only time I think it's ever got to me because at the end of the day, I'm there to play darts. I'm there to play in a tournament, and if I don't think I can win it, I probably shouldn't be there. So whoever's there, I've got to beat, and the only way that I can beat them is worrying about me and what I can do. And if if things like Carl Sadleshek happen, you just shake hands, too good, walk off.
Yeah, I was gonna bring up the world championship and stuff, and so going over to Ali Pali and having the run that you did, and you were playing some fantastic darts in that run. What's going through your mind, game after game, in a run like that at the world championships?
Yeah, it wasn't much different. The only thing is I went off social media a bit there because it just got a little bit appalling, if I'm honest. Um, but yeah, look, I was fighting some other demons there as well because it was my first time overseas, away from my family, um, since a few issues back home, and I didn't. I thought I'd prepared for the whole Christmas thing, but I didn't, and yeah, so I was riding a nice little wave up, and then yeah, just fell over. 'Cause, but each game didn't bother me. It was a new game. It was a new game. It was all about what was happening off the board. That was more the
Yeah,
focus.
How much or how special was it to go to the Worlds with Kai?
Yeah, very very special. It's yeah, it's kind of sort of one of those things. I was really happy with my run, but I was even more excited about Kai and how he went, because we've had a lot of players go over there and just absolutely capitulate. You see their technique drop out. His technique held up really really well, but and everything that we did, we could just soak it up. It was and we could do it together. Like
yeah.
when he was getting a little bit of hate mail on social media, we're comparing notes and all that sort of stuff, and it's going to help him prepare for the next time it comes around. So, my first run over to Ali Pali, my first one to Lakeside as well, and I went in blind, and I got in trouble so many times because I wasn't at the right place at the right time. Guy's first run, he didn't have to worry about that, so a massive relief for me.
So it must have been because I'm a father of a very young baby at the moment, but it's it must have been a different mindset for you, thinking how proud you are of Kai as opposed to right, I'm there as well. Was the was the moment for like you standing back looking at your son on the stage, was that more of a moment than you actually being on the stage yourself?
Fortunately, I didn't get the opportunity. So I was down in the players' room, so I wasn't allowed out. So I missed that moment. It's probably one of the biggest regrets in my career. I should have just walked out and gone up. But yeah, when he pegged that, was it 116 or on the double one? I was Yeah, I was up. The chairs went flying. I was fist pumping. It was fantastic.
Yeah, I can't even begin to imagine what it'd be like to see like your son or daughter achieve something like that. It must have been a special moment.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, but I was there the day that he won through to qualify, and I think that was just the biggest moment
Yeah,
because that was his coming of age day. That's where everybody knew the name Kai Smith after that day,
yeah,
in the Australian scene. So
yeah. So being on the Ali Pali stage is the rewards for the hard work gone. You've put the hard work in to get there. So being on the Ali Pali, like you say, it's the hard work done, the proud moments done, and then you get that reward for the work you've put in.
yeah, yeah, no, and it was definitely worth every little bit of investment.
Brilliant.
I'll just stick.
What
I'll
about
just
if you
stick to
guys
being
came
able to
face
watch it.
to What about if you guys came face to face on the stage? Then is that the ultimate now, or is it more
Uh,
you've had your time,
no,
or you're going to watch Kai? You want him to progress? What's next for you guys?
yeah. So I played him in the Australian Open, and it was kind of sort of soul destroying for me. So I wanted to meet him, yeah, absolutely, but not in the preliminary rounds. Um, but that was last year was a difficult year for that as well because Kai's like I finished number one in Queensland. I won the Queensland number one. Kai was second, by a few points. If I wasn't there, he would have taken the spot, and knocked him out of the Australian Open. I've beaten him in a few tournaments and all that sort of stuff. That's cost him points and opportunities. But yeah, so it's getting to that point where it's his time, and it's probably my time to move aside. But at the same time, I don't want to gift it to him if he, I want him to start beating me for it. So then he
Make
can
him
take
earn
the
it.
mantle in his own right.
Brilliant stuff.
What
So
does? Go on, Kev.
no, I was going to say I'm going to steal one of your questions, but if you've got something better,
I don't know what question you were going to steal.
the dinner party one.
Go for it, mate. Go for it.
All right. So you're allowed two darts players, current and past, who you host them for dinner. Who would it be?
Uh, Good one. Probably Bert Ridgway, who was my mentor, because I'd like to pick his brain again, and Tony David, the 2002 Embassy World Champion.
The legend
Those
that is Tony David.
those are two guys that I'd love to have a conversation with and record it and put it up for other people to see, just to see a different way of thinking about the game.
So, talking about Tony David, what was it like? What was it like in Australia when he won that? What was the reception for him?
Um, a little bit of an odd one. Everyone was super proud and all that, but I think everybody was sharpening their teeth, waiting for him to come out. So
Yeah,
yeah, we're having a crack at a world champion now.
yeah. He's got a target on his head at that point.
Yeah, yeah. So we had like players in Queensland at the time. Jeff Kime, who went over to play at Lakes at Ali Pali. Simon Whitlock was in the mix. Yeah, we had some phenomenal talent in and around our little area in Brisbane. So when he flew down from Townsville, we're all lining up to have a crack at him. Um, and then yeah, he moved to Western Australia, and I think the year he moved to Western Australia, all the Queensland players asked if he was playing off, and he said yes. So we had probably one of the best Queensland sides we ever had to go away just to try and get him.
I've got one. I've got one. We'll end on, then we'll leave you to your Sunday evening. So you're backstage. You're in the final of the World Championship. You're picking one song to listen to before you walk on stage. What song gets you going before you make that walk?
Ooh. Um, so holding back the years, Simply Red.
That's a belter of a song.
Yeah, it's one of those things that sort of gets me nice and relaxed. So I like to listen to something a little bit low, so the heart rate doesn't go blasting through the roof.
So you're not
That's
going to be like Dirk Van Dijvenbode walking up on stage.
No, I'm not doing.
How he
Yeah,
performs
no.
after doing that, I have no idea.
Yeah, no, I'm too measured in my throw. I'd probably start chomping at the bit, looking like I've had about 20 Red Bulls.
Because your walk-on song itself is something that is known to get crowds going, isn't it? Do you
Yeah,
take the walk-in song in, or do you just get into
yeah,
your zone and you're focused?
yeah. No, it definitely helps because it's kind of sort of the last little piece that you own before you walk up there. So when it comes down to your preparation, it's kind of sort of the last piece to the jigsaw of the pre-game. So what type of mood is it going to put you in? How's it going to go? Um, yeah. So and that song just puts me in a good mood. But so that's the reason for that one. And then from there it's just me and the dartboard. So
Yeah. And the
I
song's
think
Macklemore, Can't Hold Us, isn't it?
I think me and the dartboard is a perfect way to end.
yeah.
Yeah. What more do you need? What more do you need? Me and the dartboard. That is it. That's it. Perfect. We can't thank you enough for joining us, Raymond. It's really appreciated, buddy.
No, anytime, more than I'll talk darts all day if I can.
Yeah,
So,
I would as well.
Fantastic. Raymond Smith, thank you very much.
anytime.
Thank you very much. Catch you all on the next one. Thank you again, Raymond.